It's late, isn't it? Wherever you are, whatever time your clock says, I want you to take a breath. Pull the blanket closer. Turn on a fan if you have one. Let the room grow cooler. And before we begin, write in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? Now, close your eyes or don't. It's your choice. But I invite you to let go. Because tonight, you'll spend one day in the life of a man who never made the history books. No war hero, no scholar, no traitor, just a peasant. A man named Thomas, living in a village no one remembers, during a century most forget. And his day, like all others, will begin in silence. Let's begin. The air inside the cottage is heavy before dawn. It smells of ash and wool, of last night's fire and damp cloth. The thick clay walls are cold to the touch, and the wooden beams overhead groan softly in their sleep. Thomas lies awake. He's not sure if he ever truly sleeps. Not fully. Not like the children do. His eyes are open in the dark, staring toward the faint outline of the ceiling. A small window near the roof lets in a breath of starlight. Nothing more. His wife, Agnes, shifts beside him. The rustle of rough linen, the warmth of her body wrapped in their single woolen blanket. One of the children coughs softly across the room, and then, without drama, without thought, Thomas rises. He doesn't stretch, doesn't yawn. His body knows the motion. He reaches for his tunic, coarse, gray, frayed at the sleeves, pulls it over his head. Bare feet meet the packed earth floor. Cold. The kind of cold that wakes bones before it wakes skin. He walks to the hearth, kneels, stirs the embers beneath yesterday's blackened logs. They glow, still alive, still breathing. He adds a handful of dry straw, then wood, then waits. The fire takes. The room sighs. Agnes is up now, too. She doesn't speak. They've shared too many mornings to waste words this early. She wraps her shawl around her shoulders, moves to the table, begins to slice a hard loaf of rye. A clay jug holds a little milk, thick, cold, slightly sour. It will do. Thomas hears the chickens shifting outside. A thump, a flap, a low croaking sound from the old rooster, too lazy for a proper crow. The sky beyond the window begins to turn. Not yet gold, not yet blue, just lighter, a color between night and morning. He steps outside. The yard is quiet. Their home leans slightly westward, as most do after too many winters. The fence around the goats is patched again with woven bramble. One goat watches him, eyes like glass, chewing something invisible. Thomas walks to the well, draws water. His hands ache. They always ache. He splashes his face. The cold is sharper now, sharper than inside, sharper than fire. It wakes him. Truly, he breathes deeply, and for a moment there is peace. just breath and earth and sky. Back inside, Agnes pours warm water over crushed herbs. They'll drink it with bread. It's not tea, not as the Lords have it, but it soothes the stomach. The children begin to stir. 3 of them, small, bony, curious. Thomas doesn't speak to them, not yet. They'll find their rhythm. He trusts it. The fire crackles softly. The smell of damp wool. The sound of chewing. Someone sneezes. Agnes crosses herself, whispers something to the Virgin. Thomas stands, wraps a cord around his waist, grabs the hoe, leaning by the door. It's time. Outside, the village stirs. A dog barks. A cart creaks. Far off, the chapel bell tolls, once, not for mass, just for morning. The fields wait, and Thomas walks toward them, not with haste, not with dread, but with the kind of motion that comes from repetition, from knowing the land like skin. Each stone in the path has a name in his bones, each tree a memory. He passes a neighbor, old Edith, hunched, hauling a basket of kindling. They nod. Nothing more. Words are for later. Now is the time for rhythm, for steps, for soil, for the day to begin not in noise, but in motion. The field greets him with dew. Wet, laces his boots. The sky now shows color. A pale yellow stretch across the east. He kneels, touches the earth. It's damp, still good. He works, not with force, with pace. The hoe rises and falls, soil parts. The rhythm is slow but constant. A crow calls in the distance. Another man joins the next field over. Thomas hears the shuffle of boots, the sound of metal hitting stone. But he doesn't turn. The land before him demands attention. He will work until his back complains. Then pause. Then return. No one counts the hours. The sun decides. And today, like every day, there is work. There is always work. But for now, as the sun breaks the horizon, and the wind carries the smell of turned earth and warming bread, Thomas is simply a man in the field, living, breathing, working. And this is only the beginning. The sun has not yet warmed the fields, but light is now fully in the air. It slides across the soil in soft golden layers. It catches on the rough wool of Thomas's tunic, spills over the woven tops of the low fences, glimmers briefly on the dew still clinging to the grass. This part of the day is silent, not because the world is quiet, but because no one speaks. There's no reason to. Everyone is awake, and everyone knows what must be done. Words would only interrupt the rhythm. Thomas leans into his work. The hoe bites into the damp earth again and again. There's a dull satisfaction to it. Not joy, not pride. Just the simple comfort of doing what must be done. Each stroke is met with the wet, soft give of ground that's seen many seasons. Each turn of the soil releases the smell of root and clay. the scent of centuries beneath his feet. He pauses to wipe sweat from his brow. Though the air is still cool, his body has begun to warm. He stretches once, slow and careful, back cracking softly like wood, shifting under pressure. Then, just as quietly, he returns to the task. Across the fence, a pair of oxen snort and shift in their yoke. Their master, Richard, the miller's cousin, grunts as he pushes a heavy plow through the neighboring furrow. They do not speak. Thomas offers a small nod. It is returned without delay. That's all that's needed. A greeting between men who work the same ground, answer to the same sky, and bow to the same hunger. He moves down the row, pressing seed into fresh furrows with calloused fingers. Not too deep, not too shallow. He doesn't measure with string. He measures by memory, by feel, by instinct, the way his father did, and his father before him. The land has its own logic, and Thomas has learned it without books, with hands, with patience, with time. Behind him, the village begins to speak. Faint voices carry through the morning air, a child's laugh, a door creaking open, the distant clink of iron against iron. Someone has started a fire with wet wood. The smoke smells thick and bitter. From the far side of the road, the baker's wife calls to her sons. Her voice is sharp, but not cruel. The world begins to move faster, though Thomas's pace does not change. He finishes the last row and stands. His knees complain. So does his back. But this is familiar, expected. He lets out a slow breath and turns toward home. As he walks, his feet drag slightly, not from fatigue, not yet, but from the rhythm of the ground itself. Packed earth, soft grass, loose stones. Each footfall knows where to go. The path from field to home is the same every morning, and Thomas has walked it enough to feel it without thought. The cottage stands low and broad, its walls made of wattle and daub, its roof heavy with thatch, still darkened by the night's moisture. A chicken pecks near the doorway. The goat has found a dry patch of dirt to lie in, its sides rising and falling slowly with breath. Inside, Agnes is tending to the fire. She glances up as Thomas enters. A quick look, nothing more. No need for words. He sets the hoe by the door, brushes dirt from his hands. The youngest child, Anselm, sits near the hearth, legs crossed, gnawing on a crust of bread. His hair sticks up in all directions. His face is still smudged with sleep. Thomas walks past him, places a hand briefly on the boy's shoulder. It's not a gesture of affection in the way others might know it, but it's enough. The boy leans into it for just a moment, then keeps chewing. The room smells of wood smoke and herbs. A pot hangs over the fire. Agnes stirs it slowly. It's a thin porridge made from barley and a bit of yesterday's broth. It won't fill them for long, but it will do until midday. Thomas sits on the bench near the wall. The light outside is stronger now. It slips in through the narrow slats near the roof, paints streaks of brightness across the packed earth floor. He listens to the quiet scrape of the spoon, to the shifting of the children, to the low murmur of his father, the old man, still wrapped in his blanket in the far corner. The old man speaks only sometimes now. His words come in half-phrases, names from long ago, prayers half-whispered, sometimes curses, but always with the same softness, as though he's speaking to ghosts and doesn't want to frighten them. Agnes ladles porridge into bowls, rough clay chipped at the edges. The family gathers. They eat quietly. A spoon clinks against a bowl. Someone swallows too loud. One of the girls giggles. Agnes hushes her with a look. Thomas chews slowly. The food is warm, salty, comforting, and for a moment, there is nothing to want. Nothing missing, just food, fire, and time. After breakfast, Agnes wraps a scarf over her head. She moves outside to begin washing the linens. Thomas stays behind, rinses his bowl with a splash of water, sets it down. He moves to the door, pauses, and looks once more into the room. The old man sleeps again. The children play near the hearth. The fire pops once softly, and then Thomas steps outside, back into the light, back into the world. The sun is higher now. The dew has gone, and the road that leads through the village waits. The road through the village is not paved. It's packed earth, scored by cartwheels, soft in the ruts and dry at the edges. Chickens wander across it freely, pecking at invisible things. A dog trots lazily ahead of Thomas, then veers off without reason. It is morning still, but no longer early. The sun hangs a little higher now, casting pale warmth over thatched roofs, and smoke that curls slowly upward from cooking fires. The village of Holtwake is not large. 15 homes, one chapel, a few sheds, a mill by the stream, but it feels full, lived in, rooted, not in stone, but in repetition, in the comfort of knowing what every hour is meant for. Thomas walks with no haste. He has no master waiting, no horn to answer, only chores. And chores wait. They do not shout. They do not complain. They simply sit, unfinished dash, until hands come to finish them. A neighbor waves. Osric, lean, older, missing a tooth. He's sweeping dung from the lane with a bundle of reeds tied into a makeshift broom. Morning, he says. Thomas lifts a hand. Nothing more is needed. Further ahead, the blacksmith's shed is open. Inside, the man hammers slowly. Not with force, but with rhythm. Each strike rings out, echoing against the stone. Sharp, clear, familiar. A pair of boys sit nearby, watching, learning. One of them chews a piece of bark. The smell of iron and smoke curls into the lane. Thomas keeps walking. At the far end of the village, near the willows, sits the small communal garden. Not for grain, not for trade. For herbs, for healing. For flavor, when winter turns all food into sameness. Today, Thomas has come for mint. Agnes has asked. Her throat is sore. He bends, fingers brushing across the leaves, careful not to pull the roots. The scent rises, sharp, green, wet. It reminds him of spring rains, of childhood, of nothing urgent. He takes only what's needed, tucks it into his satchel, and stands. From here, he can see the hills beyond the village. Soft, dark green, blotched with trees. Familiar. They've always been there, and he has never climbed them. The chapel bell rings once, not for mass, just to mark the hour, mid-morning. Thomas turns back. It's time to mend the pen. The goats are loud today, or maybe Thomas is simply more aware of it. The older one, Hilda, bleats constantly. He leans over the fence, examines the loose post. It's splintered at the base, half pulled from the ground. Probably from leaning. Maybe from a fox. He sets to work. The wood is rough. It tears at his palms. He digs out the hole with a flat stone, resets the stake, packs earth tight around it. The sound of insects fills the space around him. Low, steady, alive. Sweat beads on his brow, slides down the bridge of his nose. He doesn't wipe it, not yet. From the doorway, Agnes watches. She holds a bundle of wet cloth, dripping onto her boots. She says nothing, but when he finishes, she nods. Once, then vanishes back inside. A wordless conversation, complete. Thomas moves to the woodpile next. Some logs are too thick. They need splitting. He selects them all, stands the first log, raises, swings, crack. The sound echoes across the yard. It is not violent. It is not angry. It is necessary. The log breaks. He does it again and again until the rhythm is more breath than action. His arms ache. His shirt sticks to his back. The chickens have gathered to watch. He ignores them. By noon, the sun is high. It does not shine gently now. It presses down, hot and bright, filling the yard with that particular stillness that only midday brings. Thomas wipes his hands on his tunic, returns to the house. The door creaks as he enters. The smell of stew greets him. Lentils, root vegetables, a hint of something smoky. Maybe bacon, or just the memory of it. The family sits. He joins. The bowls are warm in hand. The stew thick, filling, just salty enough. There is no conversation. Only eating. Only steam rising from clay bowls and the sound of spoons scraping against their sides. For a moment, the world is simple, full, enough. After the meal, Thomas steps outside again. The yard is quiet now. Even the goats seem subdued. The sun has driven the energy from the day, and in its place, a slower rhythm begins, the rhythm of the long afternoon, the hours that stretch, the air that thickens, the time when nothing urgent must be done, but things must still be done. He sighs, not from frustration, just from habit, and picks up the spade. There's a ditch behind the house that needs deepening to keep water from pooling near the wall. He begins to dig, one scoop at a time. The earth is dry now, resistant, but he keeps going, because this is the hour for quiet labor, for sun-warmed silence, for the kind of work that doesn't end, but changes, slowly, like everything in this life. The shovel bites into the dirt with a dull thud, not like morning earth, soft and pliable. Number this is sun-baked, stubborn ground. It resists. But Thomas is patient. He doesn't drive the blade deep. He lets the weight of his body do the work. Each scoop is lifted, turned, scattered just to the side. He's dug this trench before. Every spring, the rain threatens to rot the wall, and every year the ditch fills with leaves, dust, careless stones. So he digs. Again. The air is heavier now. It clings to the skin. Smells of sweat, crushed grass, warm clay. The kind of heat that settles not on your face, but in your bones. It slows the world. Even the chickens are quiet. Even the flies move slower. After some time, he doesn't count. He stops, leans on the spade, listens. In the distance, a baby crying, a cow lowing, a rooster, confused by the light, tries to crow again. The sound is weak, as if the day has drained even its pride. Thomas wipes his face with his sleeve, wanders toward the barrel of water near the shed. He dips both hands in, lets the coolness soak his skin, then brings a splash to his face. The shock of it draws a small grunt from his throat, but it feels good. It reminds him he's alive, that this is not a dream, not a routine carved in fog, but a life, lived moment by moment. He takes a seat on the log beside the shed, lets his shoulders fall, lets his breath even. The sky above him is bright, flat blue, cloudless, unforgiving. He squints. The village rests under that sky, like a collection of sleeping thoughts. Everything is still. Everything waits, even the wind. From the back of the house, a clatter, tin on stone. Agnes is cleaning pots. He hears her humming something low, repetitive. Not quite a melody, just sound. Something to fill the space between scrubbing and rinsing. He doesn't move, just listens. The hum carries across the yard like smoke. Software familiar. It's not for anyone. And yet, it's enough. Eventually he stands. Not because he wants to, because he must. There's always more to do. The tool shed's door hangs uneven. He reaches for the hammer. The wood is dry, splintering. The hinge has rusted again. He pulls a nail from the small pouch at his belt, braces the wood with one hand, taps with the other. Steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. From the lane, a cart rolls by. 2 wheels, wooden sides, filled with sacks of flour, driven by young Ellis, a baker's apprentice, red hair, wide hands, a cheerful fool. He waves as he passes. Thomas nods. Again, no words. What would be the point? Everything necessary has already been said. And the rest can wait. The hammering finished, he tests the door. It swings better now. Not perfect, but better. He gathers the tools, returns them to their places. The shovel, the maul, the twine. Each has its home. Even tools need rest. Even tools need order. He heads toward the barn, a small leaning thing with one wall patched in driftwood. Inside, the air is thicker, smells of hay, animal breath, dust, and time. He checks the feed, brushes loose straw from the floor, tightens the gate latch with a loop of rope. A bird has nested in the rafters again. He watches it for a moment, small, brown, still. Its head tilts. It watches him, too, then disappears into the dark corners of the roof. He smiles, barely. There is something comforting in being watched by a creature with no judgment. By now, the light has shifted again. It no longer falls straight from above. It begins to angle, to stretch, to soften. The hour of labor has passed. The hour of light remains, and with it, the hour of pause, not of idleness, but of slowing, of breathing between tasks, of letting the body acknowledge the weight it carries. He returns to the bench by the door, sits once more, watches the goats shuffle, watches dust move through sunlight like lazy snow. He lets his hands rest on his knees, lets the sweat dry. Inside, he hears laughter, quick, bright, unexpected. The children are playing. He doesn't rise, but he listens. Listens as if that sound were a river, and he a stone in it, not moving, not interrupting, just being. The village breathes slower now. No bells, no barking, just the hush of late afternoon. When time grows soft, when shadows grow long, when even the birds fall silent for a while. And Thomas, sitting in the warmth, feels not happiness exactly, but something close, something simple, still. Enough. The wind begins to return, not with force, not yet, but with a presence. It moves through the branches of the small tree near the pen, shaking loose a few dry leaves, stirring the edge of Thomas's tunic, lifting the straw in lazy swirls across the yard. It is the first sign that evening will come. Not soon, but inevitably. And the body, even before the mind, starts to respond. Thomas rises slowly. His legs ache now, a deep, familiar throb that reaches up through the hips and settles behind the ribs. He doesn't stretch. He's too old for that. Stretching just reminds him what doesn't bend like it used to. Instead, he gathers a few small tasks. There's a basket of kindling to collect, a broken strap on the water bucket to mend, and always, always, a watchful glance toward the sky, reading it not for beauty, but for signs, the kind of light that warns of early rain, the thickness in the clouds that means the wind will turn colder, the shift in birdsong. He reads the day like a book. He's read every page of, but never aloud. The kindling pile is behind the shed. Thin twigs, dry branches, bark stripped from fallen logs. He kneels, selects carefully, not just for burn, but for smell. Some wood carries too much smoke, some flares too quickly. But the right wood. It warms slowly, holds a glow, keeps the room steady through the long, dark hours. Thomas fills the basket, slings it over his arm, returns to the house. Inside, the room is darker now. The fire has shrunk to embers again. Agnes stands by the table, her back to the door. She's slicing root vegetables, hands practiced, movements slow and sure. The children are quieter now. The older boy has gone to fetch water. The youngest are drawing shapes in the dust on the floor. Thomas sets down the kindling, adds a few thin branches to the hearth, blows softly. The flames return, flickering orange against the stone. The smell of smoke begins to build again, but it is a kind smell. Clean, dry, earthy. Agnes hums, the same low tune as before, maybe not even a tune, just breath with shape. Thomas doesn't ask. He never has. Some things are meant to be unexplained. He moves to the corner where his tools are stored, fetches the bucket. The leather strap has split. He sits on the bench by the wall, takes a length of rawhide from the pouch, threads it through the handle rings. He works by feel more than sight. Fingers moving carefully, looping, pulling, tying. Outside, footsteps crunch on dry ground. A moment later, the door creaks. His eldest, Willen, enters, cheeks flushed, shirt damp with well water, carrying a jug with both hands. Thomas nods once. Willen says nothing, sets the jug on the table. He looks tired, not from the walk, but from growing. Thomas remembers that weariness, the kind that has nothing to do with labor and everything to do with becoming something. He lets the boy sit. No orders, no praise, just space. The light through the small window has turned gold, not bright, but rich, thick like honey. It spills across the table, across Agnes's sleeves, across the dust in the air. Soon it will go, and with it the last heat of the day. Outside, the lane stirs again. Voices return, softer than morning, slower, Not the voices of work, but of ending, of reckoning. Neighbors greet each other more fully now, with whole sentences, with questions, with laughter. Children chase each other down the path. A dog barks, then runs from the noise it made. And from the chapel, a single bell chimes, low, measured, calling not to labor, but to rest, to gratitude, to stillness. Agnes serves a simple meal, boiled roots, a bit of barley, some onion, salt, sparingly, and a thin slice of smoked fish, a gift from the tanner's wife. The family gathers. No one rushes. They've earned the meal, but they do not devour it. They eat in rhythm, in peace. Thomas chews slowly. He watches the light retreat from the table, feels the evening settle into the floor, into his spine, into the bones of the house. No one speaks. No one needs to. Not now. When the food is gone, Agnes clears the bowls. The children begin to murmur among themselves. Willen tells a story about a fox he saw once, how it walked with a limp, but still outpaced the dog. The younger ones laugh, not because it's funny, but because he told it well, because the night has softened their edges, because laughter feels good after a day of silence. Thomas listens. He smiles, not with his mouth, but with his breath. A quiet exhale. Outside, the wind picks up again. This time, it is real. It moves the trees, shakes the shutters, sends a scatter of leaves across the roof. Night is coming, and the day, the long, slow day, has almost folded itself away. But not yet. There's still a little warmth, still a little time. And Thomas, sitting by the fire, watching his family in the half-light, feels something gentle rise in his chest, something close to peace. The light fades like breath on glass, slowly, evenly, without hurry. The fire in the hearth becomes the center of the room, not just for warmth, but for meaning. It crackles softly, throws shadows across the walls, long, uncertain shapes. Everything else becomes quiet. Outside, the village settles. The laughter dulls, doors close. Voices drift into murmurs, then vanish altogether. Night does not fall in the village. It arrives. Thomas stands. His knees complain again, but not loudly. They've grown used to this hour. He walks to the doorway, pushes open the wooden plank that serves as a door, steps outside. The air is cool now, cooler than it's been all day, cooler than it has a right to be, given how hot the sun burned earlier. The yard is blue in the fading light, shadows sharp. The outlines of things become stories. A goat sleeping in the grass looks like a fallen log. The low bench is a crouching figure. The water barrel is a tower. Thomas breathes deep, smells wood smoke, dust, the faintest trace of mint from the bundle hanging by the window. Somewhere far away, a dog barks, once, then silence again. He moves toward the chicken coop, checks the door. It holds, checks the latch. Still tight. Inside, the birds rustle but don't panic. They know him. They know this hour. He says nothing. They say nothing. But something passes between them. A recognition. A contract. You live. I guard. We continue. He walks the perimeter of the yard. Not because he expects danger, but because the act of walking marks the day as finished. He passes the shed, the fence, the pile of stones near the tree that once was meant to be a wall, but never grew beyond 3 rows. It doesn't matter. The wall isn't needed. The memory of building it was enough. He stands beneath the tree, places one hand against its trunk. It's not a prayer. Not quite. Just a gesture. A grounding. A moment to let the bark remind him. This day happened. It was real. It was his. He turns back. The house glows faintly now. The fire within makes the shutters flicker like eyes. Warm. Watching. He steps back inside. Agnes is brushing the children's hair, one by one, with a small bone comb. They sit still, not out of obedience, but out of rhythm. They've done this every night they can remember. Their bodies respond before thought. Thomas watches. The youngest, Ellen, is nearly asleep by the time it's her turn. She leans against Agnes's knee, head heavy, eyelids fighting to stay open. Her hair is wild, knotted, sunlightened. Agnes works gently, and the room is filled with the soft sound of bristles through hair. A lullaby made of motion. Willen returns from outside, sets a small bundle of firewood beside the door. No one asks. No one tells him to do it. He simply knows. It's the hour for preparing, for tucking the world in, before it becomes too dark to see. The old man in the corner stirs. He opens one eye, then the other, sits slowly, rubbing his knees. His voice is cracked when he speaks, but clear. Rain tomorrow, he says. No one argues. Thomas just nods. Agnes hands him a cup of warm broth. He drinks it in small, shaking sips. Outside, the wind brushes against the door, a gentle warning. The night is fully here. Agnes begins to prepare the sleeping space. They do not have beds in the way some know beds, just woolen blankets, stuffed mattresses of straw and cloth. One for the children, one for the old man, one for them. She lays them out carefully, smooths them flat, places a hand on each, as if blessing them. Thomas watches her move. Her back bends. Her steps are sure. She does this every night, and he never tires of it. Not because it's remarkable, but because it's real. The fire is banked, not fully extinguished, just slowed, made to last, to glow through the early hours of night without burning too fast. It's a delicate balance. Too much wood, and it will roar. Too little, and the room will freeze by morning. But Agnes knows, and so does Thomas. and the fire obeys. They gather near it one last time, not in conversation, not in ceremony, just as they always do. Thomas sits on the bench. Agnes braids her own hair with fingers that never rush. Willen draws in the dust again, shapes only he understands. The old man mutters to himself, words drifting out like steam, and the children breathe slower, sinking into their wool. Night holds them now, not as a threat, not as a fear, but as a blanket. A soft weight, a hush. And Thomas, looking into the last of the firelight, feels that weight press into his shoulders. It is not heavy, not tonight. It is the exact weight of the day that came and went, and was lived fully, simply, without glory, without shame. And that in this place, in this life, is enough. The fire whispers now, not crackling, not speaking, just breathing. A low, steady breath that fills the small house with warmth, with silence, with time. The room has grown dim, only the red glow from the hearth, and the last faint silver from the window light the space, but no one complains. They don't need more light. Not now. The day is behind them, and what remains belongs to stillness. Thomas stands one more time. His knees remind him that he is no longer young, but they hold. They always do. He crosses the room slowly, checks the door. The latch is in place, the bar set. Outside, the wind has picked up. It moves across the roof in long sighs, the kind of wind that carries old stories, that makes animals restless and fires thoughtful. But inside, all is calm. The walls are thick, the beams strong. The air still smells of supper and smoke. He checks the window shutter tight. No rattling. Then moves to the corner, the one near the old man. He kneels, not fully, just enough to reach the chest. Lifts the lid. Inside, a few folded cloths, an iron nail, a small wooden carving of the Virgin. He touches it gently, then closes the lid. Not in reverence, just in rhythm. The motions of evening, of remembering, of returning. Agnes has finished braiding her hair. She lays back now, pulls the blanket to her chin, adjusts it without a word. The children are already asleep, all three in one nest of wool and straw. Limbs tangled, breaths soft. The old man mutters, still. But his words are no longer of this world. He speaks to people no one else can see, pauses, nods, smiles, then quiets. Thomas removes his boots, sets them by the hearth, places the tools he carried in their corner, not to work tomorrow, but so they rest properly tonight. He believes in that things should have their place, even the ones that don't speak, especially them. He lowers himself beside Agnes. She doesn't look at him. She doesn't need to. They've shared too many nights to fill them with words. Her hand finds his beneath the blanket. She squeezes once, then lets go. The fire fades further, not dying, just resting. The red has turned to deep orange. The logs are hollowing from within, still warm, still glowing, but slow, steady. Outside, the wind shifts again. A low moan around the corner of the house. Something taps on the roof. A branch or a bird, not yet asleep. It doesn't matter. Nothing out there wants what's in here. And what's in here wants only sleep. Thomas listens to the breathing of his children, to the faint exhale of Agnes, to the creak of wood cooling, to the wind that forgets his name. He stares at the ceiling, barely visible in the darkness. He knows every line of it, every crack in the beam, every spider's web in the corner. He could name them in the dark. He could live his whole life in this room and not be lost, because this dash, this quiet, this warmth, this patterned dash is all he's ever needed. He closes his eyes. The room remains. The fire breathes. The wind waits. And sleep, slowly like the sky at dusk, rises over him. Not sudden, not full, but soft, patient. A gift he neither chases nor resists. He simply lets go of the ache in his hands, of the soil in his boots, of the weight of the day. And the house, wrapped in silence, wrapped in straw and stone and breath, holds him and holds the night. There's a time of night when the fire is no longer flame, but coal. A deep red pulse in the heart of the hearth. It gives little light, less heat, but still, it lives. The room around it rests. The air is thick with sleep, heavy, still. And in that stillness, everything breathes together. The walls, the beams, the people inside. Thomas stirs, not fully, not enough to wake, just enough to shift. A muscle tightens in his back. One leg stretches. His hand brushes the edge of the blanket. He doesn't open his eyes. Doesn't need to. He knows where he is, and more importantly, he knows who is beside him. Agnes, warm, curled, quiet. Her breath rises and falls in a soft rhythm, the rhythm of someone who trusts the night to hold her. The house creaks, not from wind, not from ghosts, from age, the kind of sound that wood makes when it forgets it was once a tree, when it becomes only shelter, only frame. And still, there is memory in the creak, of years, of hands, of warmth passed from skin to stone. In the far corner, the old man groans, a low sound, half breath, half word. Thomas hears it, but does not rise. He's learned to tell the difference between a cry for help and a body remembering pain. This is the latter. He lets the moment pass. The groan fades. The night remains. Outside, The wind slips under the eaves. It doesn't enter, but it speaks. Through cracks in the shutter, through the chimney stones, through the thatch above. It tells stories no one listens to, not because they aren't worth hearing, but because they are only wind, and wind is not for keeping. A chicken clucks softly in its sleep. Another answers, then silence. The kind of silence that only deep night brings. A silence not of emptiness, but of fullness. Everything is exactly where it should be. And so, there is no need to move, no need to speak, no need to even dream. But Thomas does dream, not in color, not in sound, in weight. He dreams of carrying hay, of walking through mist, of hearing his own name spoken from behind dash, but never turning. In the dream, he's barefoot. The soil is cold. He knows he's heading somewhere, but not where. And it doesn't matter, because walking is enough. Because the path knows the feet as much as the feet know the path. He shifts again, murmurs something, but the words vanish before they reach his mouth. Agnes doesn't stir. The children don't hear. The room stays wrapped in that thick, slow darkness. Time pauses, just for a while, long enough for the body to rest, and the mind to soften. A small crack in the shutter lets in a sliver of moonlight. It lands on the wall opposite the hearth, a stripe of silver, straight and still. It shifts only when the wind moves the branches outside, casting shadows that flicker like forgotten memories. Thomas doesn't see it, but it touches the space around him, washes the edge of his blanket, paints his boots in silence, marks the night as real. No one else in the house is awake, and yet there is a presence, not of gods, not of fear, of history, of repetition, of thousands of nights like this, before this one, and thousands still to come, nights with the same wind, the same silence, the same fire cooling on the same stone, and a man lying beside his wife, not knowing the hour, but knowing it is enough, just to be warm, just to be still, just to be. The night deepens, no longer the blue dark of early evening, but the full black silence of true midnight. It wraps the village completely, roof to root, beast to man, hearth to sky. There's no light now, save the dying amber within the hearth's cradle. The fire's voice is gone. Its breath remains, a slow radiance, like memory, like breath, like something waiting to end, but not just yet. Thomas sleeps, but lightly, not like a child who surrenders fully, trusting the world to stay in place. He sleeps like a man who has carried too many mornings on his back and no longer believes that sleep is ever complete. His limbs are still, but his thoughts flicker. He dreams again. In this dream, he is in the field, the southern one, by the hedgerow, But the soil is not soil. It's water, black, moving. He steps, and the ground ripples. The sky is made of wood. The sun is an ember, a single glowing eye that blinks once and disappears. He hears the sound of goats, but sees none. Then hears his own name, spoken not as a call, but as a memory. He tries to speak, but his mouth is full of grain. Then a rooster cries, real. The sound cuts through the dream, thin, tired, but real. It comes again, the same call, the same broken rhythm. And Thomas opens his eyes. Darkness greets him, total, but not empty. The fire has gone completely now. Only heat remains. But he doesn't need light to know the room. He could walk it blind. He could live in it forever and never lose his way. He listens. No movement from the children. No cough from the old man. No breath from Agnes Dash. But he can feel her warmth. She is there. Still. He closes his eyes again, but doesn't sleep. Not yet. He lets the weight of the blanket hold him, lets the hum of the wind outside lull his thoughts. The thatch rustles, the shutter creaks, not in alarm, in rhythm, the rhythm of a house alive with time. A house that has stood through hundreds of nights like this and will stand through hundreds more, long after Thomas, long after his children, long after the world forgets the names carved into the soft wood beside the hearth. But not yet. Tonight, the names are remembered by the beams, by the firestone, by the wind, and that is enough. He drifts again, not fully asleep, but not fully awake. He floats in a space between, where thoughts blur, where breath and memory become the same thread. He thinks of his mother, of the way she used to sing when she thought no one was listening, of the time he fell from the tree by the mill and cracked his tooth, the pain, the way his father didn't scold him, just handed him a cloth and said, "Spit once, then walk." He thinks of Willin and wonders if the boy knows how much of himself lives in him, not in words, not in rules, but in silence, in gesture, in the way he lifts a jug, in the way he tightens rope, in the way he watches the world and says nothing. Outside, the wind quiets. Even it needs to rest. Even it understands when to let the world be still. And inside, everything breathes in one long shared pause. The night holds them, not like a threat, but like a memory too old to vanish. And Thomas, still lying in the dark, still awake but calm, lets his eyes close once more. No dreams come, only breath, only the soft weight of life continuing, one moment at a time. The first light doesn't come from the sky. It comes from sound, from the rustle of hay, from the stir of goats, from the groan of beams adjusting to cold. Then the rooster again, sharper this time, more certain. Then the clink of pottery, a breath drawn through chapped lips, a cough, deep, rattling. The old man in his corner waking to another day. The sun hasn't risen, but the world is already moving. Thomas opens his eyes. There's no need to ask the hour. He feels it, that thin slice of time, when the world is no longer night, but not yet morning. He lies still, listens. Someone shifts on straw. One of the children sighs in their sleep. The fire is cold, no glow, no warmth, only ash. He sits up slowly. His body protests, not with pain, but with memory. Of yesterday, of every yesterday before it. But he moves, because he must. Because stillness belongs to the dead, and he is not yet dead. He rises, rolls his shoulders, rubs his palms together. They're rougher this season than last, the work more biting, the wind less forgiving, but still. He walks barefoot across the packed earth. Each step knows where to go. He lifts the kettle from beside the hearth. It's cold. He adds water from the jug, reaches for kindling, and begins again. The fire takes longer today. The wood is damp. The wind outside sharpens and slips through cracks near the floor. But Thomas is patient. He coaxes it. He speaks to it, not with words, but with breath, with waiting. And it answers, first with smoke, then with the whisper of flame, then with heat. Small, but growing. Behind him, the room begins to stir. Agnes wakes, not with a sound, but with emotion, the kind of movement that tells the air we are returning. She pulls the blanket back, sits up, presses her hands to her cheeks. They do not speak. There is nothing urgent to say. The children groan, stretch. Willen rises first. He crosses to the pot, dips a hand in the cold water, splashing his face. Thomas nods to him. The boy nods back. That is enough. Outside, the wind has stilled. The sky is pale, not bright, not blue, just ready. Agnes prepares the first food, a few oats, some milk, slightly soured. She stirs slowly, humming again. The same tune, always the same. Thomas sits by the fire, warming his hands, watching the flame climb from the base of the wood. The warmth returns to his skin, to his breath. He closes his eyes for a moment, not to sleep, just to pause, to remember that this too is part of living, to begin again. The meal is quiet, as always. The children eat in calm rhythm. Agnes offers a slice of cheese, thin, sharp. They all eat. They all listen. The day begins in chewing, in breath, in patience. When Thomas steps outside again, the world is lighter. The trees to the east are silhouetted now. The grass is still wet. The hens have begun their low gossip. The goats stretch and blink. The village still quiet, but expectant. Another day, the same, yet never the same. Because each dawn brings new ache, new weather, new questions that never need asking, and Thomas, with hoe in hand, with breath in his chest, with silence in his mind, walks toward it, not to conquer, not to complete, but simply to live. The field waits, not in silence, but in the kind of quiet that holds sound gently. Bird calls, the slow crunch of boots on damp earth, the whisper of wind through new grass. Thomas steps onto the edge of his plot. He pauses, not to admire, not to plan, but to feel. The earth beneath his feet is familiar, not just the soil, but the slope, the smell, the very breath of the land. It has taken from him years, sweat, strength, sometimes hope, but it has also given, not with mercy, but with balance. The field remembers him, and he remembers the field. He bends, not quickly. His back speaks with 1,000 yesterdays, but it bends. He touches the dirt, cold, wet, firm, but not hostile. He lifts a clump, rubs it between his fingers, still good, still ready. He begins the day's work without ceremony. Hoe in hand, step, strike, drag, lift, step. A rhythm older than him, older than the road, older than the name Holt Wake. The rhythm of land and hand, of breath and stone, of seasons folding into each other. The sun crests the treetops slowly. Its light warms only the tops of things. Branches, thatch, the shoulders of trees. Down here, on the earth, it is still cool, still hushed, but the light comes, as it always does. And Thomas, head low, feet firm, does not look up. He does not need to. The sun will find him. Mid-morning, a bird lands on the fence, stares, tilts its head, then departs. Thomas doesn't notice. Or rather, he does dash, but only as part of the day, not as surprise, not as message, just motion. The world moves. He moves with it. Another figure appears. Dash. Edric, his neighbor, tall, slender, bareheaded. He walks with his own rhythm, his own ache. Their paths cross at the edge of the field. No words, a nod. Both kneel. Both digging. Both lift and scatter and press and sigh. Side by side, not together, not apart, just near. And the morning continues. By the time the sun reaches full height, Thomas straightens. His back sings. His arms are dusted with soil. His breath is steady. He leans on the hoe, wipes his brow with his sleeve, glances toward the lane. No one calls, no bell rings, but he knows it is time to eat. He walks slowly home, not dragging, just saving his steps. The wind brushes past, gentle now, carrying the scent of rye and smoke and the faint sweetness of something baking. Perhaps the baker's wife has risen early. Perhaps today there will be bread at the stall. But Thomas doesn't think about it long, because the thought passes, as all thoughts do, when the body calls louder. And today, it calls for rest. The house is warm. Agnes is folding cloth. The children sit, drawing lines in ash. The old man sleeps, mouth slightly open, dreaming of years no one else remembers. Thomas sets down his tools. He does not speak. Agnes hands him a bowl, warm, simple, lentils, barley, bits of carrot. He eats in silence, each bite steady, each swallow measured, not in reverence, but in need. The kind of eating that belongs to the working man, not rushed, not slow, just right. After the meal, he washes the bowl himself, not from pride, not from duty, from habit. And because the water is cool and the motion calms the joints, Agnes hums again, the same tune always. Then he sits by the door, lets his body settle. His hands rest on his knees, his eyes half close. The sun outside is brighter now, but inside, everything is soft. Everything is held. And the hour, this slow, bright hour, asks nothing more from him, only that he sit, only that he breathe, only that he be. The bench beneath Thomas creaks just slightly, enough to remind him of its age and his own. The wood is smooth where hands have rested, edges worn by elbows, knees, buckets, time. He doesn't move. The house is calm. The sun lays soft rectangles across the floor. The air is thick with stillness, but not the kind that suffocates, the kind that holds. Agnes moves around the room in slow circles, straightening, gathering, rearranging things that don't need rearranging. It's not about order, it's about rhythm. Each fold, each stack, each gesture, a prayer made with fingers, not with words. The children lie on their stomachs, heads close together, watching a beetle crawl across a flat stone. They speak in whispers, not because they're told to, but because the hour itself whispers. And children, more than anyone, know how to match the mood of a room, without understanding why. Outside, the wind lifts dust along the path, carries dry leaves across the hard-packed ground. The sound is like brushing fabric, soft, regular, invisible. Thomas watches, not for meaning, not for escape, just to watch the way a man watches when he no longer needs stories. To fill his silence, the goats mutter, the chickens peck, a cart passes in the lane, wooden wheels bouncing over stones. A man calls out to someone unseen. The voice fades quickly. No reply. The heat builds again. not harsh, just present. It presses gently into the room, rises from the earth, settles on the skin, a heat that slows, a heat that softens. Agnes wipes her hands on her apron, walks to the window, pushes the shutter open wider. Light floods in. Dust dances in it. Golden motes caught in a silent swirl. She watches them for a full breath, then turns away. Thomas shifts, stands, not out of necessity, just to move. His joints catch. He leans briefly against the doorway. Outside, the yard waits. He walks slowly into it. The world feels distant now, as if wrapped in linen, muted. Even the birds sing lower. He walks past the shed, past the water barrel, to the far side of the fence. Kneels. There's a patch of overgrown herb, marigold mostly, and something else. Mint, perhaps, or feverfew. He runs his hand over it. The leaves are cool, damp near the roots. He pulls a few gently, not to use, just to touch. The smell rises, clean, sharp, alive. He sits in the dirt, lets the sun rest on his shoulders, closes his eyes, not to sleep, not quite, but to listen, to the hum of insects, to the creak of the chicken coop, to the faraway whistle of someone herding sheep, to the sound of a day deepening. Agnes calls, but not with urgency, just his name, once, software. He rises, dusts his hands on his tunic, returns to the house. She hands him a jug, water. He drinks. The coolness inside him is sudden, almost sharp. It makes him blink. He lowers the jug, nods. Agnes smiles, but only with her eyes, then turns back to the table. The sun now casts long lines. The walls are painted with light and shadow. The fire hasn't been rekindled yet. It waits. The ash in the hearth is still, but not dead. Thomas sits again, this time closer to the children. They don't speak. They just lean against him, one on each side. Their warmth is small, but constant, like the fire, like the day. He rests his hand on the back of his son's neck. A gentle weight. Not for guidance, not for command, just to say, I'm here, you're here, and for now. That is all. The old man stirs in the corner, clears his throat. He mumbles a name dash, not one any of them know, then quiets again. His eyes close once more, and the light continues to shift. The sun lowers its voice. What once poured through the window now leans in gently, like a storyteller drawing toward the final chapter. The light softens to a golden hush. Walls turn amber. Shadows grow long and warm. The house exhales. Everything that needed doing has been done or left intentionally for tomorrow. Thomas rises once more, not because he must, but because something in the light tells him this is the hour to move again, not to labor, to tend, to close the day's loops. He walks to the shed, checks the rope on the gate. The knot holds, but he pulls it once anyway. Out of habit, out of rhythm, then the chicken coop. The birds have already begun to cluster near the door, murmuring in the low, fluttering language of dusk. He opens the coop. They file in without protest. One limps slightly. The small red one with the chipped beak. He notes it. Tomorrow, maybe, he'll look closer. Today, it limps. And that is enough. He closes the door, slides the latch, leans against the wall for a breath. The air is cool now, not cold, but thinner, as if the day is drawing its shawl around itself, preparing to sit down beside the fire. Back inside, Agnes is lighting the first taper. She holds a twig to the fire, waits for it to catch, then transfers the flame to the stub of candle. Pressed into a small clay dish, the flame flickers, then steadies. She sets it on the table. Its light is soft, orange, quiet. The children sit cross-legged now, tired, but not yet ready for sleep. Willen picks at a piece of thread. Ellen leans against the wall, blinking slowly. The middle boy, Rowan, stares into the flame, as if reading something only he can see. Thomas enters. The door creaks. The children don't turn, but Agnes does, just a glance. She reads his face, his gait, his shoulders, nods. All is well. Supper is simpler than midday. A slice of bread each, a smear of lard, a few boiled peas. Thomas takes his portion, eats slowly. The bread is rough, dry, but he chews it without complaint, without thought. It fills the space, not the belly, the moment. After, he drinks from the jug. The water is cool, slightly metallic. It tastes of clay, of river, of time. Agnes gathers the bowls, doesn't wash them yet, just stacks them by the hearth. The washing can wait. The day is done. Now is the hour for stillness. Thomas returns to the bench. This time, Agnes sits beside him, not close, but not far. Their shoulders nearly touch. The taper burns lower. Its flame bends occasionally, responds to breath, to draft, to silence. The old man coughs again. Not deep, not painful, just enough to say, "I'm still here." Then silence again. Agnes leans back. Thomas leans forward. Their shapes form a quiet symmetry, a balance of rest and readiness. Willen begins to hum. Not a tune learned from Agnes. Not the one she always sings. Something new, or maybe old Dash, but changed in his mouth. The others listen. Thomas closes his eyes. It is not music. It is not prayer. It is just sound, filling the space, so that silence does not press too tightly. The taper dims. The wax pools at its base. Agnes pinches it. Darkness returns. But it is not frightening. It is familiar. It is the same darkness they greet each night, the same that held their parents, that holds their children, the same darkness that listens, without judging, without rushing, without leaving. Thomas lies down. His blanket smells of smoke and dust and skin. It wraps around his shoulders like a memory. Agnes lies beside him. One child curls near their feet. The other two already drift on their own bed of straw. The old man breathes slowly in the corner, his mouth slightly open, his eyes closed, his hands folded as if still praying. The fire has fallen to faint orange now. No crackle, only the occasional sigh of wood giving way. And the house holds them all, wrapped in silence, wrapped in night, wrapped in a day that asked little, but gave everything. The sun lowers its voice. What once poured through the window now leans in gently, like a storyteller drawing toward the final chapter. The light softens to a golden hush. Walls turn amber. Shadows grow long and warm. The house exhales. Everything that needed doing has been done or left intentionally for tomorrow. Thomas rises once more, not because he must, but because something in the light tells him this is the hour to move again, not to labor, to tend, to close the day's loops. He walks to the shed, checks the rope on the gate. The knot holds, but he pulls it once anyway. Out of habit, out of rhythm, then the chicken coop. The birds have already begun to cluster near the door, murmuring in the low, fluttering language of dusk. He opens the coop. They file in without protest. One limps slightly. The small red one with the chipped beak. He notes it. Tomorrow, maybe, he'll look closer. Today, it limps. And that is enough. He closes the door, slides the latch, leans against the wall for a breath. The air is cool now, not cold, but thinner, as if the day is drawing its shawl around itself, preparing to sit down beside the fire. Back inside, Agnes is lighting the first taper. She holds a twig to the fire, waits for it to catch, then transfers the flame to the stub of candle. Pressed into a small clay dish, the flame flickers, then steadies. She sets it on the table. Its light is soft, orange, quiet. The children sit cross-legged now, tired, but not yet ready for sleep. Willen picks at a piece of thread. Ellen leans against the wall, blinking slowly. The middle boy, Rowan, stares into the flame, as if reading something only he can see. Thomas enters. The door creaks. The children don't turn, but Agnes does, just a glance. She reads his face, his gait, his shoulders, nods. All is well. Supper is simpler than midday. A slice of bread each, a smear of lard, a few boiled peas. Thomas takes his portion, eats slowly. The bread is rough, dry, but he chews it without complaint, without thought. It fills the space, not the belly, the moment. After, he drinks from the jug. The water is cool, slightly metallic. It tastes of clay, of river, of time. Agnes gathers the bowls, doesn't wash them yet, just stacks them by the hearth. The washing can wait. The day is done. Now is the hour for stillness. Thomas returns to the bench. This time, Agnes sits beside him. Not close, but not far. Their shoulders nearly touch. The taper burns lower. Its flame bends occasionally, responds to breath, to draft, to silence. The old man coughs again. Not deep, not painful, just enough to say, "I'm still here." Then silence again. Agnes leans back. Thomas leans forward. Their shapes form a quiet symmetry, a balance of rest and readiness. Willen begins to hum. Not a tune learned from Agnes. Not the one she always sings. Something new, or maybe old Dash, but changed in his mouth. The others listen. Thomas closes his eyes. It is not music. It is not prayer. It is just sound, filling the space, so that silence does not press too tightly. The taper dims. The wax pools at its base. Agnes pinches it. Darkness returns. But it is not frightening. It is familiar. It is the same darkness they greet each night, the same that held their parents, that holds their children, the same darkness that listens, without judging, without rushing, without leaving. Thomas lies down. His blanket smells of smoke and dust and skin. It wraps around his shoulders like a memory. Agnes lies beside him. One child curls near their feet. The other two already drift on their own bed of straw. The old man breathes slowly in the corner, his mouth slightly open, his eyes closed, his hands folded as if still praying. The fire has fallen to faint orange now. No crackle, only the occasional sigh of wood giving way. And the house holds them all, wrapped in silence, wrapped in night, wrapped in a day that asked little, but gave everything. The path to the field is worn smooth by repetition. It curves gently past the low wall, past the row of leaning trees, past the patch where someone once tried to grow flax and failed. Thomas walks it without thinking. Each step lands where it should, not by plan, by memory. The earth welcomes him, not with words, but with weight, with texture, with silence that is not empty, but full of recognition. The sun warms the back of his neck, not hot yet, but steady. The wind brushes his sleeve, carries the smell of distant bread, animal fur, river stone. The world is exactly as it should be. And yet, there is something in the air today, something final, not ominous, not heavy, just still. He reaches the edge of his field, sets the hoe down, stretches his arms once, then begins. Strike, lift, turn, step, the same rhythm, the same breath, the same effort. The soil responds. It always does. As he works, his mind wanders. Not far, just along the edges. He thinks of the shed, the way it leans a little more each year. He thinks of Willen's hands, already rough, already learning. He thinks of Agnes's braid, falling over her shoulder last night when the candle burned low and her face was half in shadow. He thinks of nothing, and in that nothing he finds peace. Midday comes, not announced, just revealed. The light shifts, the heat climbs. He stops, sits at the edge of the field, drinks from the skin, wipes his mouth, leans back on his hands, and looks at the sky. It's bluer than it was yesterday. Or maybe he's just noticing. A hawk circles far above, free, silent, sharp. He watches it until it vanishes, then lowers his gaze to the line of the hills, the same hills he's never climbed, still green, still distant. He smiles, almost. He returns home early. Agnes looks up, no surprise, just welcome. The children are napping. The old man sits awake, but not speaking, just watching the door, as if he knew Thomas would come then. Thomas sits, removes his boots, sighs into the space. Agnes hands him bread. He eats slowly. She pours water. He drinks slowly. They do not speak. There is no need. Later, he walks to the edge of the village. Alone. The light is turning again. Afternoon slipping into evening, he sits on the same rock he sat on for years. Watches the dust drift. Watches the sheep return. Watches the smoke rise. And for a long moment, he does nothing. Just breathes. Just is. When he returns, the fire has been lit. The children help prepare the evening meal. Agnes hums. The old man sleeps. The door is closed. The shutters drawn. Inside, warmth, smell, presence. The house holds everything. And Thomas, with a heart not full, not empty, but quiet, sits down. The meal is eaten, the bowls stacked, the fire tended, the wool laid down. Agnes lies beside him. The children curl nearby. The old man does not stir. And Thomas, eyes open, watching the last of the firelight, lets the day go. Not because it failed. Not because it excelled. Because it ended. And that, in this life, is sacred. He closes his eyes. The fire breathes once more. The wind sleeps. The house listens. And all is still. A single day. Unremarkable. Unrecorded. Complete. And beautiful. Because it was lived. Fully. Quietly. Together.